Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Students of the Word. This is session number 104. And tonight, do you realize we're like 8 verses from the end of First John now? I mean, we're just hurtling towards the end of this book at this point. We're like 92% of the way through First John. I mean, yeah, so probably only 6 months, as Scott points out. True enough. True enough. Um, but anyway, excited today because today we're going to be picking up on some things that that I've been interested to go back to anyway, because it's the stuff right before the commandment. So let's actually begin tonight by uh reviewing this what I'm talking about here. Okay, so chapter 3. Um, Here we go. So this is the commandment. So this is the center of the center. This is the middle of the epistle. The heart of the epistle is when he actually gives the commandment. And so we've come back to this verse a bunch of times. Verse 23, 323. This is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and love one another just as he commanded us. Um, so yeah, that we've been talking about the commandment for quite some time, right? That, as I say, that's the heart of the whole thing. But let's remember tonight, before we get into tonight's sentence, right? Let's recall what was leading right up to that. Um, so starting 2 verses up, verse 21, 321. Beloved, if our heart, our mind does not condemn us, we have confidence before God. And whatever we ask, we receive from him because we keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. So that's the sentence before the commandment sentence. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence before God. And whatever we ask, we receive from him because we keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. So we've got the two elements that, of course, I wanted to make sure to emphasize here. One is having confidence before God, in God's presence, and then because we keep his command, and whatever we ask, we receive from him because we keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. So we have confidence before God. Whatever we ask, we receive from him. So remember that all of these things are right here in this sentence leading up to the commandment, to the central um statement, right, of the whole epistle. Now let's look back ahead at where we are. Verse 13, we did last time. These things I have written to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know that you have eternal life. This is the confidence which we have before him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. So you can see, of course, why I was reminded of that sentence that came before, because both of those elements, this is the confidence which we have before him, and if we ask anything according to his will. Now, the first time it said, whatever we ask, we'll receive. And here it says, whatever we ask, he hears us. He's going to move on to that, right? Like, if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us in whatever we ask, we know that we have the requests which we have asked from him. That's what he's going to go on and say in the next sentence, right? So in some ways, I feel that this is much clearer than the last time. It's a little less punchy, right? But it's much clearer. He's expanding on things much more here. And have you noticed that this tends to be John's pattern? That is, he'll say something once and it'll be pretty confusing. And then he'll come back to that same idea again and talk about it a little bit more fully than he did the first time. That's it's not an unusual move for John here. So yeah. I just want to observe that first. Now, let's get into the Greek, and I want to be comparing the Greek a little bit so that we can see how to understand it. Yeah, Susan, I agree. It is kind of recursive. I mean, it's you're supposed to be meditating on this, right? He puts it there first and then gives you more, forces you back to it, but this time with a little bit more. Again, it's almost like the opposite kind of approach from what you might expect, right? If your primary goal is clarity of communication, right? Explain it first and then come back and allude to it. No, no, no. He does it the other way around. Anyway, okay. So we looked at the first sentence of the paragraph last time. Tauta egrapsa human. These things I wrote to you, Hina, so that a date, that was the mind-blowing thing for me last time, a date, so that you may know that you have the life of the age, age's life, to those believing, those trusting in the name of the Son of God, and that you may believe, that you may trust in the name of the Son of God. Though that last part is not in all manuscripts, and that you may believe on the name. Okay, now, Kai haute estin he paresia, and this is the confidence. And this is the confidence en ekomen pros auton. Ooh, pros. Toward him. This is, I don't think it's a new preposition in the sense of I've never seen it before, but this is an unusual preposition. This is not one of John's go-to prepositions. Towards him. Huh. Let's look at pros a little bit here. Okay. To, towards, with, or for. So I'm looking at Matthew's usages here of pros. Do not return to Herod, like in Herod's direction, referring to actual movement. Then they went out to him, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is going out to see him, right? To Jesus is laid. No, this is still, sorry, it's John the Baptist. Right, the axe is laid to the root. So that's interesting. It's not a person going out to somewhere. But it's still about motion, right? Right, the go out to the Jordan, to John, comest thou to me? Jesus said unto him. Okay. Okay. That's different. Right? Dashing your foot against a stone. Pros. What is it? Lithon. Right. Against a stone. Ooh, now this one is interesting. If you look, whoever looketh on a woman to lust after her. To lust, like pros. That's really interesting. This is the most metaphorical use of this we've seen so far. I mean, it seems that it's a motion towards an object, verb, primarily, dashing your foot against a stone, going out to see him in the wilderness. Um, oh, this is really interesting, though. Still Sermon on the Mount. You do these things before men in order to be seen? Huh. Oh, that's really interesting. Not even sure quite what to do with that. Neither are the translators, obviously, as they're translating it in quite different ways. Which come to you, go rather to the lost sheep. Okay, well, let me see if I can get down to John. Though there's so many usages, might not even. give me. No, it's okay. Um, I really can't stand it when it does this. Okay. All right. Let us scroll down. See if we can find John's usages. Luke. All right. I have a good feeling about this. Okay, here we are. Okay. John 1. Whoa. The word was with God? That's pros? Okay, my mind's already blown here. Sending something to him, sure. Jesus coming to him, that was like Nathaniel, right? Brought him to Jesus. Nathaniel coming to him. Jesus said to him about the wine. In chapter 2, Nicodemus comes to Jesus. Nicodemus saith to him, cometh to the light. So, okay, so it's mostly about directing your words or directing your movements most of the time, but I'm not going to miss the first two verses. The word was with God. The word was pros ton theon. Whoa. With seems a dubious translation of that because it's clearly a motion towards kind of situation. The word was with God makes it sound like what John is trying to convey is like, and they were kind of hanging together, the word and God. And that's doesn't seem to be what the work that pronoun is doing in that sentence. Yeah. Okay. So if it's used with to be, it's more like presence or proximity. Okay. Okay. All right. Jesus said to him, the noble said to him. So you sent to John. Oh, this is an interesting one. You were willing for a season to rejoice. For is interesting. Translation there. I think that's it. It's just using an idiom that we don't have in English, like towards a season or to a season wouldn't make any sense in English. I will accuse you to the Father. Huh. Okay. Okay. Oh, no, I don't know what I meant to do. That's okay. All right. So in this case, it's not to be. So we're talking about this prepositional phrase, pros auton, to him, is it's an adverbial phrase modifying the verb we have, right? This is the confidence that we have. Wait, no, no, wait a second. Okay, yes, right. This is the confidence. I'm like, why is confidence nominative? It's nominative because that we have is a noun clause that's modifying confidence. This is the confidence. What confidence are we talking about? Oh, the confidence that we have. Right. But how do we have it? We have it towards him. Okay. Pretty sure that's the way that that's all um holding together there. So the towards him, the pros auton, is describing how we have it, the confidence. What are the circumstances of our having it? This is the confidence that we have toward him, to him, in his direction. Yeah. Okay. So it's not what he's saying here. He's not just talking about general confidence. It's not just our general attitude. What he is specifically talking about, what this is, kai haute, and this is the confidence that we have towards him. The confidence he's talking about is our confidence in God's direction. But notice that once again, so the English is translating this before. We have before him. But that's not, it's pros. That does not mean before. I mean, it's in his presence. And I get the whole nearby proximity thing, but that doesn't seem to be the thing here. Sorry, that was extremely articulate. If pros means near or with after a linking verb, well, that's not this. This seems because it's about having. Exactly. Yeah. Directionality, I think, is quoted with this, but this is towards him. We can have confidence about a lot of things, right? What he's specifying here is our confidence towards God. Now, so what is, in fact, the confidence that we have towards him? Well, he's about to tell us what it is. That confidence is haughty, that if T means anything? What a funny little word. Someone, anyone, certain one, some a certain thing. Wow, that is even funnier than I thought. It's just an indefinite pronoun. Because see, someone and anyone, that seems to me like that's like an interpretive leap, right? Like those are like particular roles that it can have in meanings potentially, or like you could choose to render it in that way. Um, okay. It's just an indefinite pronoun, neuter indefinite pronoun. So I'm not going to translate it. Translating it as anything or anyone or someone or somebody or something like that is, to me, that feels aggressive. That if we might ask, oh, that's a really fascinating technique that we'd never do this in English because it's in the accusative. This is the direct object. So the subject is, so if we ask, and of course it's in the subjunctive because it's an if clause, right? If in theory we ask for something, right? It's the thing we ask for. It's the direct object of asking, of the asking, right? And so again, it's true. In English, we would say if we ask for anything or if we ask for something. But in Greek, they're just like, no, we're just going to use just a vague indefinite pronoun. Right. I mean, like it would be as if we said in English, if we ask uh, some or one, one thing, some thing, right? Uh, it's just like it's like the vaguest way to say that I can think of doing it. You just plop a teeny little indefinite. An indefinite pronoun is like a placeholder, right? If you see what I mean, it's just, huh, yeah. Right. Now, Scott's asking, is the according to the will relating to the thing we asked or the fact that he hears? That seems to be connected to the verb that we might ask according to the will of him. So, how might we ask? Well, if we ask in a way that is according to the will of him, kata to thelema, autu. Where have we gotten that? Yeah, that's what I was figuring, Randall, that the word order suggests it goes with the verb. Yes. The word itomathia, itomatha, itomitha. Sorry, the stress is that itomitha. It's an omega there, not an omicron. Okay. Automatha. Um Katatothelema. No, so uh can somebody look that up, thelema? Maybe I can see, but I'm it's probably not going to see it very efficiently because I'm guessing it appears in a whole bunch of places. But let's see. I might be able to get them all. I feel like we have encountered that word. So let's see. Oh, hang on. I missed it. There we are. Aha! Ha ha! I thought so. 217. Ah, the world is passing away and its lust, but the one who does the will of God abides to the age. Yes. Okay. I knew we'd seen that word before. The world is passing away and its lust, but the one who does the will of God abides to the age. So we've once used that phrase, the will of God. And when he used it before, it was connecting doing the will of God, making the will of God happen, because that's going to be the poema verb, right? Let's cheat. I can click straight through. Right? Kai hokosmos paragetai, right? It's a passing away. Kai and the epithumia, the desire of it, right? Yeah, the lust of it. Um, however, each of the poem, I was right. Poion, each of the making the will of God happen ones abides ice to ton iona abides to the age. Look at the wordplay that he's doing here, right? You've got these two parallel words. Epithumia, desire or lust of the world, and thelema. Epithumia and thelema. Um, these are the two words that are kind of like poised against each other in that verse, right? Which is the end of that little paragraph. Um, and both of them are about will. Both of them are about desire, right? They're very similar words. But you've got the lust, the desire of the world, and you've got the will of God. And the one is passing away, and the other abides to the age. Yes, yes, Randall, you were just noticing the same thing. It is a really interesting sentence and a beautiful conclusion of this paragraph here. So we're kind of alluding back to that. Hang on, I gotta go back to my daisy chain here. Okay, there we go. Back, 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 and here we are. Um, if we ask anything according to the will of him, he hears us. Ekue hemon. And this is present indicative action, active. He hears us. So that's the conclusion. So you can tell here from the mood of the verbs that this is the resolution. If we ask something according to his will, he hears us. Indicative. That's the resolution of the if. If we do this, then that. Then this thing happens. And that if statement, that if then statement, if we ask something according to his will, he hears us. That's the expansion of this is the confidence that we have toward him. What is the confidence? Could you explain more about the confidence that we have in his direction? Sure, yeah. If anything, if we ask something according to his will, he hears us. That's the kind of confidence I'm talking about. That's the haute. That's the this. And this is the confidence. Hote. I'm going to explain. So, Devora, I was just coming back to this. Akue. This is Akue, I assume the word that we get acoustic from and everything, right? And I need to review our hearing verbs for a couple reasons. One, because so Devora was just asking the very sensible question, does Greek make a distinction between hearing and listening to as English does? And Randall says that this verb does cover both meanings. Um, but we've been listening from the beginning, right? Aparques, if you know what I mean, right? I mean, if we go back all the way aparques, what was from the beginning? What we have heard, what we have seen with our eyes, what we have looked at, what we have gazed upon, and our hands have handled. Devora, it's interesting to me that the distinction that you're making about hearing and listening, right? Like the one thing meaning like the sound waves have actually hit our eardrums, and the other that we're actually paying attention. Like listening has more to do with the focus of our minds as well as the reception of the sensory input, right? Whereas hearing could just be the sensory input. Like we, um, you know, I think that many of us are parents, and so therefore have had the experience of someone who is hearing and not listening, right? But that distinction, John seems to bring up in that first, seems to me anyway, to bring up in that first, but not about hearing, about seeing. We have seen with our eyes what we have gazed upon. And he uses, remember, those two different verbs there. Um, that which was in the beginning, aparque is from the beginning. That which we have heard, that which we have seen with the eyes of us, that which we have gazed upon. So that was that we were, so I remember talking about this years ago, right, when we did this. Um, ophthalmos, that's the eyes. Herokamen and Ethea. And we had talked about how the first one seems to be about seeing, and the second is gazing upon, like you're really focused on it. That seems to be, again, Devora, I was just exactly the kind of distinction that you were pointing to between hearing and listening, right? One, the description of the reception of sensory input, the other, that plus attention of the mind, right? But he doesn't make that distinction about hearing in this first sentence. He makes it about seeing. Akeko, this is the same one, but in the perfect tense, right? That's why we get that extra little syllable in there. We have heard. He uses this word a lot. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to see them all because I think this is a fairly popular. Well, yeah, 430 times. I doubt I'm gonna get all the way down to First John here. Nowhere close. I'm still in Acts when it runs out on me. Um, okay. Can hmm. Okay, so Randall says, I think it often means hear in contrast to heed, but the verb itself can mean either depending on the context. Okay. So you can use it in the sense of like that person hears me in the sense of like he's listening and paying attention. Okay, so you can do it both ways. Um, Here's what I think is really remarkable. I'm not remembering off the top of my head all of the times in which hearing has come up. I know it's happened several times. And if anybody could come up with for me with a list of the all of the times in which John has used this word or a similar hearing verb in First John to this point, I'd be real grateful because I know it's come up between verse 1 and here um, as well. But what I'm pretty sure of, I don't remember any other instance where it was God doing the hearing. He hears us. Because if I recall correctly, hang on, I think I remember one. That which we have heard from the beginning. Uh, the new commandment stuff, yes. Yes. The old commandment is the word which you have heard. So I bet you that's got to be the same. That's got to be the same verb also. The commandment, the old commandment, is the word ekusate. That one's aorist. Yes, that you have heard. Yes. And we don't get any hearing in the poem. Nah. We get knowing, we get forgiving, we get overcoming, we get vanquishing. Yes, knowledge and vanquishing and abiding, but no hearing. Um, okay. And we're going to get it in the next, he's going to build on this in the next sentence. Back up in 5. Yes. And this is the confidence that we have in his direction. Ekomen, that's our familiar generic you have or hold something. That if we ask something according kata to thelema autu. Here's this preposition I'm just skipping. I love prepositions. Kata. According to, down, against, throughout. Huh. That's funny. Okay, so the angel of God appears to him in a dream. This is Joseph. Being warned of God in a dream. Huh. Oh, that's sorry. This is the um it's the it's not Joseph being warned. That's the wise men being warned. Okay. Oh, thank you for the citations, Randall. I'll come back to that in just a second. I'm all distracted on kata now. Huh. Kataton chronon, according to the time. Interesting. It's all this dream stuff. Kata gets used for dreams all the time. So in English, it keeps getting translated in, but it's not in. It's not N. So in English, we say that you appear in a dream, but that's not how they think about it, clearly, in Greek. Ah, of course. Right. That makes sense, Randall. Randall is reminding me that all of the Gospels, their titles use the this preposition kata. It's the Gospel kata Matthew, the Gospel kata Mark, according to. So that has that it's well, in that case, it's quite literally a case of attribution, right? Attributing the gospel to Matthew or Mark or Luke or John. Um, yeah. No, see, Susan, I can't resist the temptation of prepositions. Here's what's fun. Again, that the point is, remember what I'm trying to do is not translate. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand how to think in Greek. I'm not trying to figure out how to translate it. I'm not trying to figure out how to render it in English. Because if I try to figure out how to render it in English, then I've got to deal with English, right? Um, and I don't want to deal with English. I just want to deal with Greek. So I'm trying to understand the basic patterns of how it's used to see if I can get some sense of the root of it. Because all prepositions ultimately are metaphors, usually about like motion of some kind. Um, and their application beyond physical movement, right, are usually metaphors that are generally derived from those movements. Yeah. Um, yeah, I know we need a lot of context. That's why I'm sort of cheating by looking at like several dozen examples here to try to get the trend and knowing this is going to be woefully inadequate. But anyway, this dream thing I'm interested in because there's this clear trend. At least Matthews going is going for this all the time. Kata. the preposition kata when he talks about things happening in a dream. Now, again, we in English use in because that tells you how we're imagining the dream. Like we're imagining the dream as if it were like a container, right? There's stuff in the dream. Um, the dream is a framework that contains things. But that does not seem to be the way that Matthew, at least, is thinking about dreams. He's saying instead of like where we would say in a dream, he's saying like according to the dream, according to a dream. Or like, you know what I mean? Like it's like an attribution. Yeah, it gives the sense that the dream is telling something. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's really interesting. See, this is fun. Okay, hang on. Let's keep going. Um, Now against you, that's really interesting. And this, I think, is the sense in which we've seen it in John before. We're going to see it in one of the places, one of the precursors of today's sentence, which I want to look at in a minute. But because I definitely remember kata coming up then. Hang on, let me just glance back at it for a second. Remember back in chapter 4, I think it was paragraph 13 here. Uh, no. Where did it go? Um, Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was earlier. Yes. Yes, it is. It's 11, not 13. Okay. We know in this that we are of the truth and will assure our minds before him in whatever our mind condemns us. It's the word condemn, remember? Remember that word is like to know against, whatever our heart knows against us. And the against, that sense of opposition between our minds and ourselves. John captured with that preposition kata. I'm sure of it. I remember that very clearly. For God is more mega than our heart and knows all things. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence before God, and whatever we ask, we receive from him. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Okay. So, and that's conceptually interesting, isn't it? That kata, on the one hand, it's like an attribution, according to. In another sense, it is opposition, something to be against you, contrary to you, opposed to you. And those two meanings seem to be almost opposite in a sense. Like, look at Matthew 9 here. Shall be done according to your faith. That is, it shall be done like in uh, keeping with your faith, matching your faith. But at the same, but then it can also mean like to say all kinds of evil against you, not according to you. Like you can use the same preposition in Greek to say that you should get, like if someone is speaking up for you and saying that you should get the reward that is according to your deserts. Like, I mean, assuming, and I'm not meaning that ironically, like if you did a good thing and somebody said you should be rewarded for it, you could use kata in that way. But if an accuser then came up and lied about you and opposed you and said you didn't deserve it, they could also use kata. They could speak against you. They could speak kata you in that way. Okay. So the distinction there is with the case. Against is the uses the genitive and according to with the accusative. Okay. All right, I'm not going to try to parse that level too. That's too much for me yet. But that's still it's still interesting to me that you're basically able to get those two different meanings. And it seems that those, yeah, those seem to be the major trend of all of these usages that Matthew's doing. Either according to, even like to go into a mountain apart to pray. Kata, like to go into a mountain that's like against everything else, right? Like it's set apart, right? It's in opposition in some sense, right, to everything else. Huh. Okay. Let's glance ahead at John's usage. So as I say, this is not one of his favorite prepositions. Yeah, and he uses it pretty infrequently in the gospel too. Okay, so the urns of water that Jesus turns into wine at the wedding feast were six water pots according to the manner of purifying, right? So there's the rules, the customs about purification, and they were set up according to that manner. So it's an attribution thing. It's an according to. Ooh, went down at a certain season. That's the angel coming down to trouble the waters at Bethesda intermittently. But that also seems like an according to thing. Like there's like a custom here, but it's they don't know it. Like they can't predict it, right? Like nobody's published the angel troubling the water calendar. But there seems to be a sense that it happens, you know, it's following a schedule. We just don't know the schedule. Yeah, it's an attribution of pattern. Oh, that's interesting. Randall says it can be used distributively. Kata hemeron means day by day. So that literally be like according to the days, basically. Okay. Yeah. All right. Don't judge according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. All right, one by one. Here you go. They went out according to ones. Right. It's a pattern thing. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the pattern, Jackie, just as you said, that seems to be the heart of that of this usage, of the accusative usage, the with the accusative case usage of this preposition. You judge according to the flesh, on flesh patterns, along fleshly lines, right? He calls his sheep by name, according to their name, in the pattern of their name. Yes, yes. the accusation, what accusation bring you against the man? This is in Jesus's trial. And then two verses later, and judge him according to your law. Right? You're going to bring an accusation, kata Jesus, and then you're going to judge him kata in the other sense, the law. Yeah, interesting. You have, according to the law, okay, wait, so you had authority also, you had authority over me? Huh. I think that's authority against me, right? Is this, hang on, I'll look this one up. Answered, okay, Jesus answered him, not you would have authority cut. Why also? That doesn't even make any sense. Authority also me? Is that like a typo? Also me against? Also is just not a. What the heck? I'm confused. Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to worry about the interlinear. The point is, you would not have authority kata me against me. And then Udemion? Huh. If it were not given to you from above. Okay, so that's it's clearly, I mean, like the this word means against, so it's like emphasizing the preposition. Okay, so that's clearly against. All right. So it means one of these two things, right? According to or in the pattern of, and against, in opposition to. And in that final sentence of John, where he says that Jesus did lots of other things, and if they should all be written down. Yeah, yeah, let's look at that too. Too much fun. Yep. Many things that did Jesus, which if they should be grapheti, if they should be written, kath hen, just as each one, not even, I suppose, ton cosmon auton, the world itself, to have space for to be written the books. Okay. Oh wait, but he's saying that this kaf, this is the one that's triggering this here? No. How does that even make sense? Okay, I that looks like it. So this basically means that they should be written one by one, right? Katen, one by one, right? Yeah, okay. Right. If they should be written one by one. So it's the pattern thing again. It's his way of saying if they should be written exhaustively. Okay. Right. Gotcha. Okay, Katen. Um, fascinating. I don't suppose we can actually go down far enough to get to First John here, can we? I think we're gonna run out of space. Yep. Only the Second Corinthians. Um, that's okay. All right. Well, that was cool. And this is the confidence that we have towards him, that if we ask anything, a so now I understand this so much better. Kata to thelema, how to. That fits with the pattern of his will. Yeah, of course. Perfectly sensible. And of course, his will is in the accusative, just as we would expect. Yep. Lovely. Lovely. So the point is that the thing that we're asking follows the pattern of God's will. And that's really important because one could easily interpret this, right? I mean, like, let's go back to English. Um, that's sorry, still back on the old one, right? Wait, back. Okay, here we are. If we ask anything according to his will, there are lots of ways you can, if all we had was that, right? If we just have the English there, then this could mean, um, this could mean, uh, like if we ask anything according to his will, meaning like it could mean it's just something that harmonizes with his will, which I think is what it does seem to mean. Um, but according to his will could also mean like he has willed us to ask it, as if God's will caused in a sense. Like I can see an interpretation that says we're asking according to his will, right? So that his will is the root of it. So it's not really us asking, it's like God asking or like God's will. But the according to the kata preposition, when we can see the pattern more clearly, I think points much more clearly to um points much more clearly to um the pattern. Anything that fits the pattern of his will, anything that is in concord with his will. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and yes, I do agree with you, Randall. I think that this was part of Scott's question um, originally. Um, Scott, I'm trying to scroll back to way back when you actually asked your question. Yes. Is the according to the will related to the thing we asked or the fact that he hears? Yes. Or is it just his will that we ask? Yes, exactly. And I think that this shows that much more clearly now that we understand kata a little bit better. Anything that we ask that is in concord with his will, anything that is suiting the pattern of his will. That's the, and if we do ask anything like that, we can know that he hears us. Yeah, that's fine, Scott. It only took us an hour to figure out the answer to your question. Um, and now, Jackie, I'm minded of your question about hearing and listening. Because I think in this case, he clearly means listens to, right? Um, if we ask anything, because when we think about the kata his thelema here, um, anything f following the pattern of his will, that he listens to that. Oh, sorry, Jackie, that was Devora. You're right. Devora's excellent question about hearing and listening. Yes, he listens to us. It's not about like he's not deaf to asking something that's not in the pattern of his will, but he's not going to listen to it. He's not going to act upon it. He's not going to hear us in that deeper sense. If it's not according to, if it's not in harmony with, if it's not following the pattern of, his will. Now let's go back. Uh, Before I got distracted by kata, which I'm really glad I did. Um, Randall, you had just thoughtfully looked up for me. There it is. Okay. The other usages. So let's go back and look. Well, hang on. Let's do it in Greek. Okay, so we looked at hearing in verse 1, that which we have heard. We get it again soon afterwards, right? That which we have seen and heard, herokamen kai ekekoamen, that which we have seen and have heard, we proclaim unto you. So here it's both times in the first paragraph that he's talking about hearing, he's talking about not attending to, like not I'm listening to something and then responding to it necessarily, or not like you're telling me something and I'm hearing it and I'm listening to it and I'm gonna do something in response. In both cases, he's talking about it as like martyrumening, right? Bearing witness. I heard this and I'm saying what I have heard. I heard this thing. I saw and heard and gazed upon and handled the thing. And so I'm proclaiming it unto you. I'm bearing witness. Martyrum, and he uses the word right here in verse 2. Um, so it's in a sort of testifying what you have heard and experienced sense that he's using it here in this first paragraph. But now he uses it again in 2:7. So we're in this is the beginning of paragraph 4. Oh, this is the one that I was already looking at. Yeah. The commandments that we've heard. And that too is, well, that's interesting, actually. Let me look at this again. I am not writing a new commandment to you, uh, but an old commandment which you had, ekete aparkes, right? You had it from the beginning. The commandment, the old commandment is the word that you have heard. Now, there, I think this is the first case where you could argue that at least potentially this could be listened to also. Like, did you listen to the word? Right? Because here we're not just talking about something that you've like you're not just bearing witness to a stimulus that you had, right? A thing that you heard, that you saw and heard. Here now it's talking about a commandment. Someone says a commandment. Did you hear the commandment? And there, when you ask that question is kind of a weighted question, right? Did you hear the commandment? Right? I mean, again, I alluded to parenting before, and I think as parents, we've all been there, right? Did you hear what I said? Right? Did you, I mean, like, are you listening to me? Right? I mean, there's a little bit of that edge, I think, in this when you're talking about hearing a commandment, right? It's little hard to avoid that in this instance. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. Stephen, remind me to come back to uh, your government authority metaphor because I think it's really good. Um, Interesting. Scott says he has a friend from Vermont who says heard when he means he agrees with me. Yeah, yeah, that sense is exactly the kind of sense I'm thinking. So I think we are getting some of the listening to here for sure. And then we get it again in 18. So in 18, we're after the poem. Yep. And after this one here, doing the will of God, which we looked at. So we're in paragraph 7. Yeah. It's the last hour. And as you have heard, yeah, you've heard that Antichrist is coming. Yep. You've heard rumors about that. That one isn't exact. It's not listened to in the same sense. And you have heard that Antichrist is coming. That's more like the paragraph one sense. Have you heard this? Yeah, I heard it. That's more of a like, did you experience that thing? Right? It's more the description of the fact of the sensory experience. More like, hey, did you hear what that guy said? Rather than, are you listening to me? Right? As you have heard that Antichrist is coming. I know you have heard this, right? So you can hear a story, you can hear a rumor, and then we're going to get it later in this same paragraph, what you have heard from the beginning. We're back to aparkes. Notice the correlation. The number of times that he is using this verb of here in close proximity to that phrase aparkes from the beginning. You, what you have heard aparkes, what you have heard from the beginning, let it abide in you. If in you should abide what you have heard from the beginning, also in you, the Son, you will abide in the Son and in the Father. Okay. That's clearly a listening business, right? If you, what you have heard from the beginning and letting it abide in you. If what you have heard from the beginning should abide in you. Are you hear it, you've heard it. Did you let it in? And will it stay? And if it does, then you will stay, you will abide in the Son and in the Father. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then we don't get it again until paragraph 12, our uh our breathings paragraph, right? Our spirits paragraph. So we get it uh any spirit, any breath that does not say the same thing that Jesus has come in the flesh is not from God. And this is that breath of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming and is now in the world. So this is like the other you've heard about the Antichrist. Okay. And then we get it again, the hearing, all the breathing. We get all the hearing with the breathing. Right? They are of the world. They speak from the world, and the world listens to them. The world hears them. We are of God. We are ektutheu, the one who gnoskons God, akue hemon, hears us. He who is uk estin ektutheu, who is not from God, does not hear us. And so notice that the interlinear is just translating this as listen straight up. But it's the same verb all the way through. So yes. So far we do seem to have two usages. One which is listen, like to hear and attend. To hear and attend, or even to hear and to do. And the other in the eyewitness testimony kind of sense. Did you have this sensory experience? Yes, I did. And I'm not trying to slight that one. I mean, he's using it when he talks about bearing testimony for, you know, for the gospel in the first paragraph, right? He's going to proclaim that which he's seen and heard. So it's not like that's not significant, but he does not seem to be talking about listening there in the way that we would make that distinction that Devora was very appropriately making before. Hang on, one more thing. And no, that's it. Okay, this was the last time that we got this verb used before today. Okay. Um, yeah. Yeah, yeah, Randall, I agree. These ones are definitely in the sense of to heed rather than to hear. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So then if we go back to today's sentence with that in mind. So keep in mind all of that stuff. What you have heard from the beginning, what we have seen and heard, we now proclaim unto you. Um, we are from God, and so those who are from God will hear us, and the world will not hear us. Right? All of those things. But now, for the first time, it's turned around the other way. And we're not doing the hearing. The hearing has always been a human reaction, either our reaction to that which we have been told from the beginning, or a, a reaction like our eyewitness testimony or stories that we've heard about the Antichrist or whatever, about our heeding, about our listening. But now it's God's listening. And this is the confidence that we have pros auton towards him, that if we ask something that follows the pattern of his will, he hears us. And yeah, I think that's clearly listens to us. He heeds us. I think that a, a koe, I don't know even, how do I even say that many vowels in a row? See, I'm all like, it's like hashtag native English speaker problems. I don't know how to pronounce four vowels in a row. Akui, akue, akue. So the EI is an A, is one vowel. So it's really only sort of two in a row. Akue. Yeah. Okay. Akue. Yeah, it does sound like a sneeze. Akue. Gotcha. Akue. Or at least the way I was trying to say it. Okay. Akue here seems to me as strongly presupposing the idea of heating as the ones in paragraph 12 we were just looking at. Um, these ones, the one who knows God heeds us. The one who is not from God does not hear us. Right. By this we know this. They are from the world, therefore they speak as from the world, and the world hears them. Right. Those the sense of listen to or heed or pay attention to or respect. Right. That is included there. That it seems to this one seems to me as emphatically to follow that pattern. Um. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yes, you're probably right, JJ. I think that's probably what happened. JJ says in American English, we took the extra vowels from British English and gave them to the French in return for their help in our war for independence. I think that seems really, I mean, the least we could have done. Um, yeah, yeah. So it's very significant. Another thing that's really interesting to me here is he doesn't give a subject to this verb. Like, I know Greek is an inflected language. You don't need it. Just use the third person singular and we'll know what you're talking about. But it's kind of important. He doesn't even use autu or auton. He just alludes by, he just kind of piggybacks on the autu that just happened. If we ask something according to the will of him, akue him, he hears us. So he just uses the third person singular. So 'cause here's the thing with with an inflected language, right? Like we in English, you can't just say a verb. Like you have to have a subject. Like I mean, there are very few exceptions. And even the ones that are exceptions have a clearly implied subject. But of course, in a sense, theoretically, the subject is built in to the verb in an inflected language so that you can just say akue and you can know, hey, yeah, third person singular. But yes and no. Like it's kind of built in, but that doesn't mean it's going to be clear, right? I mean, after all, the verb doesn't have gender. So it could be like he, she, or it hears, right? Like, so again, it's just because the verb contains it doesn't mean that it makes it obvious. Um, and yet he doesn't clarify here. He's trusting that we were in the plural, God is in the singular, God is the only singular one here, so he just rolls with it. And I agree, he probably would clarify if if it were if it were unclear. My point isn't that John is being lax and unclear here, is that he's not going out of his way to emphasize this. Like if I were John's editor, um, I would have made that little say, I'm like, hey, John, this seems important, right? We've been talking about us hearing God's commands all the way along, and now we're talking about God hearing us. Maybe you wanna land on that a little bit. Because we've seen John make rhetorical decisions. Remember, like the testifying the testimonious testimony thing that he was just doing in the previous paragraph, right? I mean, there are times he will, to use the metaphor that I was using when we talked about that, where he'll just jump up and down on a single word, right? Or like to vanquish somebody with vanquishment, right? We got that one too. Um, anyway, so we've seen him do that. We've seen him emphasize the thing. And he doesn't, it's very quiet. It's very subtle. Akue Hema. You know, just throwing that out there. He listens to us. He heeds us. Because I mean, that's the heart of the whole thing. This is the confidence that we have towards him. He hears us. I mean, again, there's the whole buildup, the whole explanation to that. But at the end of the day, that's the point. That's the confidence. Why are we confident? What justifies our sense of having confidence in God's direction? Because he hears us, because he's listening. He's listening. If we ask something that is consistent with, that follows the pattern of his will. Now here, JJ, I want to come back to your analogy before. Yeah, so Stephen was saying, where did it go? Lost it already. Yes. Okay. Saying, as a government employee, I have the authority of the government on my side when I talk to a contractor, but only if what I'm saying is in accordance with what I've been tasked with doing. Yes, you represent their authority. Their authority is with you, but only in so much as your pronouncements follow the pattern of the law, right? Follow the pattern of their instructions. But in that way, Stephen, you can have confidence. If you are confident that what you are saying is in fact kata, that right, according to the law, according to the way that the government is operating, then you can be confident that you are speaking with the power of the government, right? Yeah. Yes. Yes, that seems right. Now, Susan, back to the point that you were just making, um, about why he just akue hemon. Susan points out, and Susan, I think this is exactly right. The verb seems to be the important thing. This is one of the reasons why I like playing that game. Sorry, I like playing the game that says, what would happen if he had said it differently? To play like that sort of a what if game, right? Because it helps me to pay attention, to not take for granted what he actually did say, right? So I've just been observing. John does not go out of his way to emphasize, to make a big deal out of the fact, hey, folks, this is God heeding us. We've been talking about how we heed God and how other people heed us and who's listening to whom, right? We're listening to God, and if we're listening to God, then we'll speak from God, and people will listen to us. And now all of a sudden, for the first time in the whole epistle, he's talking about God listening to us, God heeding us. But that isn't what he emphasizes. The directionality of it isn't what he emphasizes. What he emphasizes instead is, Susan, as you say, the verb hears. Akue hema. He hears us. That's what God does. So yeah, I agree with your point before, Susan. It's not that it is unclear. Grammatically speaking, it's perfectly clear who is doing the hearing here. He could rhetorically have emphasized it, but he doesn't. What he emphasizes instead is simply the verb. Um, yeah. Randall is sort of adding to that, saying without who is the immediate antecedent, I think making the pronoun explicit would actually put the emphasis on it and detract from the verb. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of what I was imagining, right? That's what I was saying. Like, if I was his editor, I would have been like, maybe you want to place the emphasis there, right? But that's not what John has done. What he's done is he's placed the emphasis on the verb. Yeah, the simplicity gives it a lot of power. I agree, Susan. He hears us. He hears. He listens to us. Yeah. All right. Well, we are running late now, but that's okay because we've more or less finished the sentence. Um, we'll come back to it next. So next, there's more that I would want to say about having confidence. Thinking back to the if your heart knows things against you, you have confidence. Building up to the commandment. Back to that link to the commandment and the sentence that comes right before the statement of the commandment. I want to return to that next time. But that's okay because John is going to return to it more. That same subject is going to be the emphasis in the next sentence there in verse 15. Um, yeah. And then verse 16, we'll get the sin leading to death. Oh, I've been looking forward to that. Okay. Very good. Um, yes, Jackie is saying, Lord, hear our prayer. Um, I think that part of the liturgy is in like, I think it's based upon this verse, actually. If we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. Lord, hear our prayer. Right. Um, yeah. I think that's exactly what they're alluding to. They, that is the authors of the liturgy, were alluding to exactly this verse. Um, and Jackie, as you can see from our discussion of kata this evening, um, the implicit framing of the liturgically repeated Lord, hear our prayer, Lord, hear our prayer is also like remind like that the things that we're asking should be according to his will, right? Like it's also like a kind of an appeal and a reminder, right? Um, that the thing that we're asking needs to be kata his thelema, um, in the pattern of his will. Yeah. Anyway, um, awesome. Thank you guys. That was wonderful. I learned so much tonight. And then we will continue on. The next sentence is really a very close continuation of the thought that he is unfolding here in this sentence. So thanks very much. And next we will continue unfolding this, and I want to look back at that pattern, um, back to paragraph 11 a little bit more next time. All right. Thanks everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye now.